the thoughts and the feelings aren't the problem. Like you can have like any thought or feeling and you can continue to do the things you value. And I think like where like a lot of people, especially as they're starting on their journey or struggling with mental health, a lot of them think they're living a feeling based life. So like, they're like, if I feel this way, then I can do these actions. If I'm feeling this way, then these actions come. But I think like getting to a value based life where your life is based on things you value, no matter what you're thinking or what you're feeling, you're still going to do things you value.
I should have gone outside first, and I didn't. So now here I am at City Brewing, stealing their Wi-Fi, and hoping to get a solid interview here, or whatever we're doing here. But no, it's good to see you. It's good to talk to you in real life. This is weird. I've seen some of your TikToks.
It is kind of crazy. I mean, like even like when you speak to people, like from like TikTok, and they get them on a video, you're like, this is like totally different.
Yeah. Do you know Omzers? I think his TikTok is. He actually looks a little bit like you, just more like exotic, I guess. Here, let me show you what he looks like. He has a really, his is a little more like psychedelic in nature, like super existential. Oh shit, hold on. I don't know if you've seen his page before.
Yes,
yeah.
I have.
Him and I were supposed to do a podcast together too. He's just I don't know what he's doing right now, but no, but it is cool. It is cool connecting with people on TikTok, and you reached out to me. You were the first person who's ever just like sent a message out like that.
Really?
That was actually kind of cool. Yeah. What was it about? Like, what was there a certain video you saw, or what was the?
I can't remember what video it was, but there was a certain video, and like I've connected with probably over 100 people over the past like 11 months, from like TikTok, and like if I think like I'm gonna vibe with you, like I'll just connect, and like the reason for that is like we never know how we're gonna help each other out. If it's like mental health or business or like connections, like we never know. And I bet over like 20 years, we're going to bring some sort of value to each other. If it's today on this call or in 20 years, in 5 years, whatever it is. So like, and like, I just love connecting with other people, like hearing like their perspective, where they're coming from. And like, it's probably like one of my favorite things to do is like network with other people.
That's dope, dude. That's dope. And you seem like you're pretty good at. I've seen a few of your collaborative efforts on video. I saw one that wasn't even on your page. It was just on my For You page, and you were there. And I was like, holy shit.
Really?
I was like, I recognize that dude. And then it was like some other guy. It was one. It was a podcast. I think it was someone else's podcast you're on.
Was it Callum?
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
Yep.
It was a pretty sweet setup, actually.
Yeah,
I was like, damn,
yeah.
bro, I need to, like, when I find a home again, I'm really going to invest in, like, a side, because podcasting is my favorite thing to do. I love
Really?
talking at length. Yeah, I was super pumped to do it. I was so upset when I had to, like, cancel on you earlier last week. I was like, fuck me. I was like, God, he's going to be, like, but no, I love doing the podcast. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I wanted to take it on the road with me. And so, like, a lot of my podcasts, I did one on the top of a mountain. And so it's really, really fun doing it. I just kind of, like, get out my thoughts, just purge myself of all the just swirling thoughts in my head. But anyway, let's get this thing started. So welcome back to your Joyage, everybody. I'm Cage, your guide. I'll be replacing the little voice inside dread for now, giving you a break from the constant internal monologue that is the human mind. I want to say first, thank you for listening, viewing, whatever platform you're on. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, drop a like in this video, and Joyage Clips, at Joyage Clips on TikTok and Instagram, is where I post all the highlights. We have Mr. Easton Gladney on the podcast. He reached out to me on TikTok. Super cool guy. We have very similar content, that style of stuff we're trying to push out, at least from what I've seen. And so I saw on your page, I did some stalking, like a lot of stalking, but I can only find like your Instagram and your TikTok. So I saw a lot of the content you're pushing. I see in your real estate. What's the connection there? Like, why is it you're pushing out this content through TikTok? Has it helped with real estate? Are they linked together at all?
Not really. I mean, the real estate is kind of just like my main stuff. I'm actually starting to move to making money online. So like, that's why, like, if you've noticed, I've stopped pushing like my real estate content altogether. Like, I think it's been about like 2 or 3 months, like since I've been talking about real estate. Like, I'm more into talking about like mental health, like spirituality, like just like stuff to bring people value and hope, and realize that their life doesn't have to be the way that it is.
The craziest thing is sometimes I'll see, like, there's a lot of people who make content like us where we just say like a certain truth that we know is true, and there's sometimes in my like day-to-day where I'll see a video like that and I'm like, fuck off. And then sometimes where I see a video where I'm like, dude, I needed that, and it's so interesting, like the ways we go through life, And just sometimes you need a video like that, and TikTok's great. It just pushes that video right when you need it. But no, I love this style. I just watched one earlier today. And I was interested if you could explain it even further. You were talking about depression and kind of like how it felt. I think it was within the last couple days you put. It might have even been
Yeah,
today.
yep.
And you explained it really, really well. I wonder if you could say it again and what your experience was with depression, like how you kind of worked through all that stuff.
I think the way that I worded it is like depression feels like you're being trapped in like a black void and your soul is being eaten from within with anxiety and with guilt and with regret or like whatever feeling that you're experiencing in that time. And it seems like when you get on the other side of depression, and like I can't remember like the exact like wording that I said, but like when you get on the other side of that depression, like your life just becomes so joyful and like you find joy in the chaos. And like for like most of the times, like the chaos is going to be there, like at all times, and your brain's just gonna make like up things or make things up that are gonna like make you like get like down on yourself or like I think like even more attached to the material world than we are, and it's gonna put you like in a spiral.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Did you was there a trigger that, or not a trigger maybe, but like what was the situation in how you started to, or how that, like how'd you so I hate like saying how'd you get depressed, but like was there a moment, was there a thing that happened, was it a breakup?
So like I can go like way back.
Yeah, yeah, do it if you want. You
There
don't
really
have to.
wasn't no, yeah. I mean, like I'm open like about anything, but you can
Okay.
ask me like any question like about anything. So like when I was born a premature baby, and I was supposed to be born in March, and I was born in December. And when I was born, I had heart problems. I had to have heart surgery. I had to be put on like breathing tubes and stuff like that. And then as I was born, um, as I get older, I was like diagnosed with like OCD and anxiety, depression, a lazy eye, a lisp, a stutter, Tourette's, and probably like some other shit that I like forget about. So like as I went through my life, um, I think that like me not addressing that and realizing how like mental health works and the brain works, I like my life was just a giant loop of me running away from my anxiety or the feelings or the thoughts I didn't like, and then just like getting that little bit of ounce of like relief, and then like running after like that good feeling and thought, and then running away from the bad feeling and thought. And I think like that's what just kept me in a depressive state. And then when I broke up with my ex senior year of high school, that put me in a very, very dark place. And it was either I was gonna get better or I was gonna kill myself. And that was it. And I obviously got better, but I was I was so low that like those are the only two choices.
Damn. Yeah, I talk about it. I've talked about it before. The idea of when you're pushed into a corner and you're forced to act, you're forced to do something, and I think a lot of problems that come about now are with kids who want to make a jump, but they're not pushed up against. Like realistically, they're just like, yo, my life's just too good. Like I have a safety net. Like there's nothing else to say. And it was the same with me. You know, I wanted to do this whole trip and like go on a spiritual journey or whatever, but I was like, man, like I have like 15 safety nets. Like there's no way I can mess this up, and it almost made it harder for me to do it. And it's hard because this new generation, they see all these things through social media. They see all these stories and influencers doing these things, and they almost like vicariously live through them, and they don't have like real life experiences. But it's so interesting how when you're like faced with a decision and your back's totally against the wall, what you're able to like accomplish and pull out of your, just like rip out of yourself, you know, from like the deepest, darkest places. What did you have any like, well, how old are you right now?
21.
You're 21? Oh, holy shit. Okay, I thought you were like 27 or something.
No, no.
It's the facial hair, dude. It's the facial hair.
I know.
God, I fucking wish. How high does it go on your face?
Like
Is
how
it pretty
high?
oh shit, you got a solid beard. Okay, yeah, I got one of those like half-assed ones. Like, yeah, it's tragic. It's tragic. Damn, dude, I had no idea it stemmed that far back. Holy shit. So have you dealt with that? Like, literally since you were like a kid, like that type of stuff, overthinking, like anxiety and stuff like that.
So from like the age of, I don't know, like 6 or 8, like all I could like remember is me like having like having that guilty feeling, and like the main like feeling for me like was guilt and not wanting to be like a bad person or like
Mm,
disappoint anyone. And like my entire life, I mean, like I remember there was times when like I would be like away from my parents and I would do something that I thought was bad, and like I would call them like bawling, crying, just to try to like get rid of that feeling that I had, and like to get that relief. And I think that was probably at the age of 8 or something, 8 or 10.
damn, dude, I don't even know if I was like conscious back then. 8 or 10. Holy shit, that is crazy. So did the stuff like the lisp and lazy eye, did that just do you like? I mean, I don't really hear it. Like I don't. Does it like I don't know anything about that kind of stuff.
So the lazy eye, I had to wear a eye patch on my right side of my face, or like on my right eye, and I had to wear that like during like middle school, I think for like a year or like 6 months to like strengthen my left eye, and like that got it better. And then
Holy shit.
I act for my lisp, I actually just started working on that like when I was 18, and like I didn't really like I was super like insecure like to order food or to say my own name, and I really didn't even start to like work on it till like I was 18, and then I went to a speech therapist and we worked on it for like about 4 months, and then like it got better.
Wow, holy shit. What was that what was that like growing up with the list? Was it that bad, or was do you think it was in your head? Was it really that bad? Were you getting bullied? Was it hindering you from, relationships or friends and that stuff?
It wasn't bad in the perspective of I was getting bullied, but in my own mind, especially combine that with my stutter. I was I couldn't get like 2 words out back to back without stuttering or being afraid to stutter, or with my lisp. I was terrified to say my own name. I was terrified to jump on phone calls, like basically like speak in general. Like I was just terrified to do like anything because I didn't want to like mess up.
When did that end for you? Was that fairly recently, like when you said you were 18 when you started getting
Yeah.
that? That's so it's been with you literally for like years and years and years.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. Damn.
I think that's what drives me to bring hope to people. I've been through such a shitty childhood with so many problems that like I can relate to a lot of different people, and like I just want to bring them hope and just show them like, hey, like if you have a lisp or a stutter or Tourette's, like you don't have to like live this way. Like you can improve.
Yeah. You on that TikTok I brought up earlier, you one of the parts, I think it was maybe in conjunction with that TikTok, you were like literally you just have to keep going. They're like there's not much to it. Sometimes it doesn't feel good, but you literally just have to just push forward and it gets better. And sometimes you just need to hear that. Sometimes like a lot of people including me, I know that, but I still sometimes, you just forget. And it's nice. It's a really good grounding thing. And I just wanted to tell you that like it's good to put that kind of content out. I know sometimes you're like looking at videos and it's like 176 views, 182 views. You're like, what the fuck? Like this should be getting more out. Like this should be a message that should be pushed out, and it's not. And every now and then I'll get a comment from someone, and like I don't have a huge YouTube or anything like that, but they'll be like, "Yo, I'm so glad I found your page," or like, "I'm so glad you posted this video," and like just like those one little moments like that, it really really feels good, and it's just nice to know. So I wanted to tell you that it helps. It
Thank
really
you.
does. It really does. And you're
There's
21.
one
It's
person.
crazy. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Damn. Um. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, you're in real estate, or you've done real estate. I don't know if you're like a student in real estate. Or are you like fully in? Have you been doing it for a long time? How'd you get into it?
So I'm a real estate agent. I've been licensed for a little bit over 2 years. Um, I when I graduated high school, so I played lacrosse for about 10 years, and up to junior year, I had scholarships to go to D3 schools. And junior year, I decided to not play lacrosse. I graduated high school, went into the trades for about a year, worked a job for like 8 months. Within that year at a trade, I realized that I don't want to work for someone else. I have so much more potential that I'm wasting here, and I can see myself look back in 40 years being like, what did you do with your life? And so, like after those 8 months, I got out of the trade and I got licensed within 2 months.
Wow. Was it easy, like the licensing part?
It was boring, but it was very simple.
I mean, it's just sales, I guess. So you just, I mean, you need people's skills, what you got, and you just need a broad understanding, I guess, of the local market and what's going on, who's selling, who's not. So that's super interesting. Does the has has your experiences, you think, with I guess with your mental illnesses and kind of like having that perspective, does that help? Does that lend itself at all in real estate?
Yes, it I don't I want to be there to help people make the buying process. And like I look at it just like a vehicle to like move me wanting to help people through. So like I like love the like education process. I love like sitting down with people and like walking them through the process, like just being there to make it easier. And also I'm very kind and very understanding when it comes to a lot of that stuff. So I feel like that is from me like understanding like what I've been through and like knowing like, hey, like this realtor, like yes, he's pissed off, but it's probably not because like a deal is falling through. It's probably because he's either trying to like get like validation or he's like insecure about himself. Like it's not the superficial reason why he's mad. There's always an underlying issue.
True, true. Do uh do you get clients like when you're 21 years old? Is it hard to be taken seriously at that age? Like I imagine people are trying to find people who are like 40, 50 with like 20 years of experience.
I haven't had any problems.
Really?
The market's really, really tough right now. So like I haven't had like many closings. I've had two this year, but like I have about 20 buyers right now. And like
Woo.
I have never had one person be like, you're too young.
Yeah.
Because well, one, like with the facial hair that helps, and I present myself in a way where it's like I know my shit and I'm prepared and I'm ready in a meeting. Like I don't go into stuff like half-assing it. So like
Mm.
they're never like asking questions like, hey, like how old are you? They're like, okay, like you make the buying process fun and enjoyable and you make it easier, we're gonna go with you.
Dope. I thought about going to real estate actually.
Really?
For a lot of the same reasons you were talking about, just like being your own boss, and I'm fairly confident in my skills, just to get shit done and to like pull stuff off and whatever, and I'm pretty smart. I feel like I could do it, and so that gives me a little bit of hope, knowing that someone similar to me in the same mindset. Like, was that the goal with real estate? Were you trying to become the best real estate agent? Like, what's your long term vision for like work? Are you trying to work online as like influencing, or are you trying to like go into like therapy, or like what kind of thing are you looking at long term?
So for a real estate agent, when I got into the business, I thought this was gonna be like my shit, like I was gonna be for it, like this is like what I'm gonna do for my entire life. And then now as I've realized, I've had clients that haven't respected me. It's not passive income, it's not residual. So I actually just like decided that I wanted to make money online like 2 months ago. I joined a network marketing company that sells super healthy dog products, and we have like a mushroom that's like super good for dogs' cancer and their immune system, and like CBD products and stuff like that. So like that's what I'm doing now for like my online business. Um, and like where that came from was I don't want to be like in Ohio. Like I want to buy land and live in a tiny house and travel the world and like meet
Yeah.
like other like entrepreneurs and like do this type of shit, but like in person, like meet up and do that stuff. And obviously me being a realtor, that's not possible.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, like with realty, I guess you do have to stay local because otherwise you don't stand a chance. If you just show up in like, San Francisco, you don't know anybody, you don't know anything. So, damn. So I guess it does kind of keep you rooted. That was my thinking a lot with just jobs in general. For most jobs, I was like, man, I don't even want to like I love. Well, I hated working in a restaurant, but I love. I think I would love like bartending or something, but I hate the idea of being stuck at that bar or at that restaurant. Like, why can't, like, why there has to be a way for me to be able to just leave whenever I want and go wherever I want and also make money. So when DoorDash became a thing, I was like, yo, this is the best thing ever, Like, you don't really need any skills other than being able to drive and read. So for me, that was like perfect. And I just made a YouTube video about that, literally, because I know so many people now who've messaged me going like, God damn it, like how the fuck are you traveling full time? And for the first half, I was like, I just saved like a few $1,000s and I just went. Like I don't have another answer other than that. But now I'm like, yo, there's a legitimate answer if you want to find it. And I think that goes to be said, like when you wanna make something happen, you pretty much just go and fucking do it. Like there's like not much else there is, and there's only so much you can do after watching. I'm sure you have too. I've watched literally every single possible self-help video online that there is in existence, and they all are saying the exact same fucking thing. They're all saying the exact same thing. You just at some point you have to pull the trigger and do something. It doesn't really matter what it is. You just gotta get the ball rolling. But what's your experience been once you did you quit real estate, or are you still doing it on the side a little bit?
I'm still doing it like as my full time, like as my like full time stuff right now. I still have clients, like we're still looking at houses, but I'm just like slowly transitioning, like in like the like network marketing stuff and like stuff like that.
Is it tough? Because this is a question I've wanted to ask, but I don't have that many people to ask it to. So I think you'd be perfect for this. Is it hard? I assume you've gone through some type of spiritual awakening or whatever that terminology is. Is it weird being like in sales or working normal ass jobs, talking to normal people who probably aren't thinking about that kind of thing, having gone through a spiritual awakening, trying to further your spiritual like journey or whatever? Is it tough wrestling between the two, in life?
It used to be, because I feel like there's a point in when you go through that awakening that you think that you're better than everyone. Like at least like I had that where I thought like, oh, well, like nothing and like I'm better than you. Now I come at every single person as I come at them from a place of understanding. I know where they sit. I can relate to them on that level, wherever they are. And I can almost always tell like why they're doing something. So like I can relate to them on a very like high level, and now there's no judgment at all for anyone. Like if you want to buy a house, great. If you don't want to buy a house, if you want to do something else, like there's no judgment at all for any person ever, because I always come from a place of understanding. So now when I go and I sit down with someone, it's all about the other person. It's where do you want to be? What are your goals? And I feel like now a lot of my spirituality and all that stuff just comes out like of me, like even like when I'm at work or like I'm talking to a client, like they can like just pick up this sense of like joy and love when I'm speaking to them. Like, and like even if it's not just about spirituality, it could be about houses, but it like fuses like into it.
It does, 100%. I totally feel you there. I'm probably similar in the same like stage or area or where you're at. I think it sounds like we are. I think you actually may be ahead of me a little bit, because I definitely relate to what you're saying. How once you have that like awakening, you go, oh my god, like I know all this stuff and like no one else knows. But I think I would say that a lot of people probably on some level sort of know what maybe they don't think about it as much as I do. But I definitely understand what you're saying, where you're like you come at people with like an understanding that if something happens or someone's triggered about something, there's probably something else going on, and so you don't judge them. And I'm very much like that. Like I really don't care to judge, because I just like I don't know everything that's going on. You never know what's happening behind the scenes, or what may have just happened before they walked into work. Maybe someone literally ran over their cat or something. Like you don't fucking know. So that's really good to know. And I think that our generation, I think we're gonna be. I don't want to shit on the like our parents and the parents before that, because they just didn't have this. They weren't able to just connect with people on the regular, like, you know what I mean? So they didn't really have anyone to bounce ideas off of. But man, there's so much stuff where I'm like, yo, why did you do that to me when I was a kid? And you're like, you should have known better in my head. And now that I have this awareness, now I'm 23, I'm like, man, like, I feel like our generation is gonna be fucking good at parenting. Like we've got to be. We're gonna be so much. We just know so much more, And I know every generation is gonna say the same shit. Our kids are gonna be like, "Oh, I can't believe you said this to me when I was 16," and we're not gonna know. And that's gonna be really frustrating, because like I think I know everything, and my dad thinks he knows everything. But to me, I'm like, yo, that's not the same. Like the technology era is different, and it's true. Like the technology era there is a quite big difference between our generation and the generation where my parents grew up. Like they just literally they didn't have anything. And the rate at which we're moving, our technology is flying through. Like, dude, today I saw a video, and it was a TikTok filter where it could bring to life pictures. Have you seen it? Action figure faces.
No, I have not.
Bro, this shit is like. Have you seen Toy Story?
Yep.
Have you seen the scene where I think Sid picks up Woody, and then Woody just like he's looking like this, and then he just looks at him, and then he freaks out and throws the Toy Story. It was like that. And like that shit is really weird. And I was like, okay. We're moving so close because before we know it, it's gonna be one of those things where it's like Black Mirror type stuff. But it's not gonna like creep up and just hit. It's gonna be so naturally just pushed into like normal stuff, and we're not even gonna think about it. And stuff that we thought about that was crazy 6 months ago is literally gonna be in our lives within the next couple of years. And all the things that we don't think are possible are flying through. Like Tesla's doing all this crazy shit, and we are in for, I think, the most like ridiculous era of like humankind. I swear. What do you think about that stuff?
I think with the rise of cryptocurrency and NFTs, I think that's going to just change everything. And I think um, I'm also looking into virtual real estate, and like that's been a thing that's on the rise as well. VR, I think VR, we're going to be living in a world where we're in our VR more than our real world, and the VR is going to become a real world. And I think that's very possible in 10 to 20 years. And we're seeing it kind of all like move together, like with the virtual real estate and the NFTs and the crypto. Like now we just need the world where we all sit in, and like we just had to perfect it and we're there. And like I think it's going to be crazy. And I feel like there's been so much growth, like what the iPhone or the internet came out in like 1997, and that's only been 23 years. And I'm like, look how much like it's advanced in like 23 years. And I'm like it's gonna be crazy. Like I
I
think.
mean, nuts. And going off what you just said about like virtual reality, virtual real estate, I think people when they think about that, they can't even like compute because we don't know what that looks like yet. But it is going to happen, and it's going to be so fluid. It's going to be so natural that we're not even going to realize what it is until 10 years later. You go back, you go, holy shit! Like everyone's like, there's just buildings everywhere, and people are inside, or I don't know what it's exactly going to look like, but I mean, dude, we really are going to be in these virtual worlds because at what point are you just like, yo, what's the difference? Like at what point you just go like, oh man, this is so much better. And I don't know if you've seen The Matrix, you just go like, just eat
Yep.
the fucking steak, like whatever. And that's gonna be a really really weird thing because I don't know. I mean, I think there's something to be said about really going and seeing some of these places in real life. Like I know when I was I was I was tripping on acid once, and I was on a couch with my friend's house, and I remember I was on TikTok and I saw a video. It was a POV, like a GoPro footage. This guy skiing on a mountain. I just remember he like stopped and he just looked over like the valley with like the sun peeking out. And I was like, damn, bro, I'm just sitting here on a couch. Like, this man is out here on a mountain in like Colorado or something. I'm here on a fucking couch. And all I wanted to do was like be there, physically be there. But like, really, what's the difference if you believe you're there in a virtual? But it's so real. You can feel it. It's cold. You can smell things. You can hear things. Like, what is the difference at that point? What's the world going to look like with virtual real estate? What do you think?
I've done a little bit of research on the virtual real estate, and like I know someone who is looking to open up a virtual casino, and he's going to have beer companies sponsor their beer in the virtual casino.
Oh my God. Wow.
Crazy stuff like that, where it's like there's advertisements, and like I think because like the advertisements like are just where like attention is. So like if more people are in the VR world than like looking at the Super Bowl, like obviously brands are going to pay more to be in a virtual world because like attention's there. And it's like I think as this becomes more and more like mainstream, like crypto and the NFTs, like I think we can see a giant shift in that type of stuff where we're spending our time in there, brands are in there, like celebrities are doing like shows like in the VR world, just like a bunch of
My
crazy
God.
stuff.
Wow. Damn, I didn't even think about it that deep. That is so true. Dude, so because I would think that if we were going to go virtual, why would another company not come in and just create virtual beer and become a new like virtual thing of that? Like, do you think it would be that, or do you think Bud Light would just come in and just be the beer in the
Bud Light
virtual?
would come in.
You think
Brands
so?
have, yeah, I mean, like personal branding like is everything. And like if you love Bud Light now, you're gonna love it even more like in the VR world probably.
That's so true. Oh my God, dude, that is nuts. I'm literally looking at a casino right there. So I kept looking up and I was just like, wow, that is crazy. Are you in crypto right now at all?
Yes.
You're invested?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on things like China banning it and Paraguay accepting it, potentially even making it currency. And El Salvador is doing it. The U.S. is trying to make their own. Some places are trying to destroy it, destroy everything to do with it. What are your thoughts on crypto? I guess more in this country rather than like the whole world, I guess. But what do you think about cryptocurrency in the next few years?
I think the government could, I think the government will just make their own and say, F it, we're using this one. I think there will be like other currencies that people use because it's cryptocurrency and like they can't really do anything besides ban it. And but I think the government could possibly just make their own and say F it to like everyone else is like, you have to use this currency. But I think it is helpful for the dollar and stuff like that, depending on how they structure it.
So if that happened, does Bitcoin just tank?
I have no clue. To be honest, I don't know because like other companies are still, like if other companies like adapt it and say like we can use it, and if like El Salvador and like places like that, like if they're using Bitcoin and you like Bitcoin, you're going to do business in their country. So then wealth could possibly leave the US and move to like El Salvador and other places where you can use that currency at. And then the US has to make a choice. Do I want to unban this currency, or do I want to let more business go out of the US?
Mm, yeah, because I'm kind of stuck in that predicament. I mean, I'm pretty heavily invested in crypto, but I'm a little worried because I'm like, I wish I could invest in crypto as like an idea rather than choosing coins that I don't know if they're gonna be around. Because I'm like, yeah, you just don't know if the United States is gonna come out with the USD coin, which I think they already are starting on that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, is that gonna replace Bitcoin? Like, I don't know if it's too late. Like, I feel in my core that they're gonna stick around. Like, there's certain companies that I believe in. Because I got obsessed. I get obsessed with things, and so when I started investing, I started really researching things. I was like, there's certain projects like Cardano where I'm like, I feel safe investing in something like that long term because they have an actual utility. Whereas Bitcoin is just a store of wealth. I'm like, that could be anything. You know, they really could just pop out with USD dollar and say, this is the one we're using. Bitcoin's banned in America, and then you're fucked. If you have $50,000 invested in Bitcoin, I don't know what you do with it. You know, nothing you can do. Like, hopefully they can make like some type of transfer option where they go, hey, you can switch your Bitcoin for this if you've already invested this much. I don't know. They probably won't. I heard they're going to be making potentially another round of stimulus checks.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, damn, bro, how many how many of those you got? I'll take it, but like, how many you got, bro?
I
Like,
know.
it is a crazy world. I feel like I really, really feel like, to go back into an existential realm a little bit, that we really are in a strange point in time, almost too strange to be overlooked. Like, too much weird shit's happening, too much change is happening right now, where I'm like, why? What is the meaning of this? Like, is this like, sometimes I'll think about, like, I remember one time I was feeling crazy one day and I was like, yo, I think this is the one. Like, if there's like a bunch of past lives, I think this is the one where, like, I don't know, like I win or it happens. I don't know what it is, but it feels very powerful and feels very specific to this round. I don't know what your thoughts on that, if you believe in that kind of stuff.
I don't think they're like, if we want to get like very, very spiritual, like I think we're all connected. So like the past, like, yes, there are past lives, but like if we're all one energy, like how are we like individual? That's kind of like my perspective. But like I also don't hold a like concrete belief about anything.
It's hard. It's hard to. I mean, it's hard. How do you go through life thinking that, and then, fucking walking to Starbucks and ordering a latte? Like, it's just really hard. I mean, it's not. I guess it's not that hard to balance it, but it is kind of weird, Like, I remember one time I was sitting at the restaurant rolling silverware, and I was literally in like an existential mode. I was like thinking about some shit, and my friend walks up with like a cheeseburger. He's like, "Yo, man," I was like, "Hey." And then he just sat down and we started talking about sports or something. And I was like, wow, that's so weird that a lot of us are just having these crazy internal dialogues going on in our head. Do you have like an internal monologue? I know some people don't have any monologue.
Yeah, I do.
So what is that like for you? What's your experience with it?
When I was struggling with mental health, hell, like legit, like hell on earth, I think. But like now it's just like super peaceful. I feel like once you kind of get to this state, like obviously you're gonna fall back to like the material world, or like you're like bad. But like now that I'm super like spiritual and I'm super like I feel like very connected, it's very like in tune with life. And especially when it comes to like intuition, I feel like when you get to that natural state, you're so in tune with your intuition that like like if this is aligned with where you're supposed to go or not. And like that kind of plays like in my thoughts as well of like yes, I am gonna fall back, and yes, there are gonna be thoughts that are putting you back to like the material world and compulsions and all that stuff. But for the most part, like it's just like peaceful and joyful and like very loving.
Do you? I'm asking you this. I'm asking you a lot of these questions that I've never asked anyone because, actually, for a long time, I never talked to anyone who I felt was higher than me, who knew more, maybe who I could actually know something I didn't know already, and I'm fairly certain you're ahead of where I'm at. So I'm gonna ask some questions I've never even thought to ask before, but I feel like I understand at a deep level a lot of things you're talking about, and I've accepted a lot of those things. You know, like when I have bad days, I know that's just a cycle, and that's whatever. But there are some times where there's certain feelings I'll get where I feel just like shit, and I don't know why. And in my head, I'm like, yo, this is fine. Like it's okay to feel like shit sometimes, but I can't get out of that feeling. I'm stuck in it. And no matter how much I'm like, yo, I had this same day 6 weeks ago and I got through it and now I'm here. There's no reason to still feel like this. Why can't I stop? Why can't I stop? Help me, Easton. Help me.
I actually had that exact same for the past two couple days. Like yesterday and the day before, like I was stuck in a depressive state, like a very like down, very just dark place. And like I would say two things. Like one, you just have to remember that like all we have like is this present moment, and that like just being like more self-aware and like detaching yourself from those thoughts and feelings really help. And like I think for me, the thoughts and the feelings aren't the problem. Like you can have like any thought or feeling and you can continue to do the things you value. And I think like where like a lot of people, especially as they're starting on their journey or struggling with mental health, a lot of them think like they're living a feeling based life. So like, if I feel this way, then I can do these actions. If I'm feeling this way, then these actions come. But I think like getting to a value based life where your life is based on things you value, no matter what you're thinking or what you're feeling, you're still going to do things you value. And
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. I've never thought about it like that.
really,
Well, I think I've maybe come to that conclusion, but I never really like heard it put that way. That is a really good way of saying that, actually. Holy shit. That's actually really profound. Because that makes sense. You know, if your values are this, then it's like, yeah, like you're gonna feel like shit, you're gonna feel good some days, feel bad, but as long as you're on that trajectory of what your values are long term, damn, that's really well put.
thank you.
Who are your who are like your inspirations? Because I saw on a lot of your TikToks, I felt like our algorithm is probably similar. I feel like Gary Vee is somewhere on your For You page a little bit.
Gary Vee is my top dude.
Oh, dude, I fucking
He
love
is
that.
my I've been watching him for 4 years. He is my, not like, I don't want to say like idol, but like he's my guy that I watch, and I basically live my entire life like that for like 99%. The only thing I don't agree with is mental health, because he obviously doesn't talk about mental health. So like for my mental health like mentor, I follow a guy named Mark Freeman. He like, I found his content when I was deciding to either kill myself or live. I found his content and he changed my entire life. He's the only person that taught me about like the feeling based life versus the value based life. He was the only person that taught me that I can have my feelings and thoughts there, and I have to embrace the uncertainty. Like, I mean, like I've been to therapists, I've been to a bunch of therapists, bunch of people. He's the only person that presented me with like, okay, like you can live the life you want while those feelings are there. So like Gary Vee and Mark Freeman are my two big people.
That's dope. That's dope. I think two things. I used to one with Gary Vee. I think the reason he doesn't talk about like mental health and stuff like that, I think for him, he's a very rare case where his like meditation is literally he just loves everything he's doing. So I don't think he doesn't care. He doesn't like need it. So it's tough because a lot of people do. And so when they see something like that, they go, oh, I just got to work. And I was like, well, that's not quite the same. Like he's literally built different, you know, him, Elon Musk, like they just don't have time for anything. So they don't even think bad or whatever. But certain spiritual teachers, like I'm sure you've heard of like Eckhart Tolle.
Yep.
Power of Now. And I think his teachings are good. I really liked his stuff, but I felt like it was very difficult sometimes to really put to practice some of his things. I thought there were some flaws in his logic, or not his logic, but like it wasn't like practical, some of the things he said in my opinion. So I have been looking for more people to kind of take more inspiration from. I love Gary Vee. Okay,
I have two people for you.
All right, hit me.
Sadhguru.
I love Sadhguru. I haven't actually watched his stuff that much, but I like the clips I've seen from him.
He is amazing. And I have another guy. I just read his book. His name's Thich Nhat Hanh.
What book was it?
It's Essential Writings.
Got it.
And I just finished his book. I recommended it to one of my friends. It changed my entire perspective on everything. He talks about the present moment. He compares Buddha to Jesus in a positive way. He is like I read his book and I'm like, this changed my entire perspective on like everything when it comes to spirituality, the present moment, religion, Jesus, Buddha, like all that stuff. And I'm like, this changed like my entire life.
That's dope. Because yeah, there's certain people where I hear their content. I'm like, I think they're too far up. Like some people are just too fucking woke. And I'm like, yo, I can't relate. I can't catch you. You know what I mean? And there's certain people like, have you read Think Like a Monk?
No, I've not.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend that book too. It's very down to earth. I think he was a past monk, and then he used to be like a typical college like douchebag, went to monkhood, realized that there's a way to like make this practical and apply this in the real world rather than just going off and being bald in the middle of the woods. You know what I mean? And so his book is very practical, but also super just good, you know? So I'll definitely check those books out because I have been looking for some new people to kind of just take inspiration from, you know? This is a question I was going to ask because I didn't know where our conversation was going to go, so I just kind of threw this in my notes.
Yeah.
But why do you think that we constantly feel the need to understand ourselves? Why do we constantly look to improve and you know, do exactly what you just said, like read these books and improve ourselves? Like, what's the point?
From what I've experienced, we're so far away from that joyful, loving state through society, through parenting, through all that stuff that like we feel something missing all the time. When you're sitting in bed alone with just your thoughts, when you're around people that don't match your vibe, you're like, something's off. And I feel like since we're so far away from our natural state, we have to continuously ask questions because we don't know like what is right and what's wrong and what's natural because we only can go off of what we're told. And I feel like the people that ask questions, that's why they get to where they get, because they don't accept it. But I feel like why we're always on that path is because we're so far away from our natural state. And I feel like once you get to that loving state and you realize like that all we have like is the present moment, I feel like that drive for finding truth goes away. Because like when you're in that joyful state, it's like, why would you want anything else? But that also doesn't stop you from wanting to better yourself. I feel like just the need to do it, like when you're in that dark place, is lessened a lot.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, at what point do you just go, all right, I'm good? Like, is there a point where you just go, I got it? Like, does anyone truly have, like, does Eckhart Tolle, is he truly just like, all right, I'm going to just take a walk and do nothing all day? Like, is that a realistic thing for people, or are we always going to be, like, trying to work on ourselves? Because inherently when you think about the power of now and you're in the present moment, you don't really know it because you can only feel it. You know, I kind of liken it to certain spiritual or certain like spiritual things that happen on psychedelic trips. I don't know if you've ever had a psychedelic experience.
No.
But it's pretty crazy, and you don't, there's only certain ones that are very, very powerful that can make you feel that way. Where you don't, there's a place of like no thought because you're truly in a spot of just experiencing, and there's no room to think about what you're experiencing. You just are there. And that's kind of what Eckhart Tolle talks about in The Power of Now, where he's like, well, when you're present, you don't think to ask what else is there or am I present, because you just are. Like, are we ever going to get to a point as a species, as a collective, or on an individual level where we just are like, all right, there's no more thought here, we're good?
I actually ask my friend that a lot of like, when are we going to stop trying to do things? And like, I feel like since we live in a material world, that's difficult, because if you see a lot of people, like we have Elon Musk trying to get to the moon, and we want to like make cars and we want to do all this cool stuff, but we never ever sit down and be like, let's dive within ourselves. Like we're trying to figure out the material world without diving internally and figuring out ourselves. So I feel like that's why we're always on this thing, because the material world is always what's next. And like, since the majority of the population think like that, and they're conditioned to be like, what's next? What's next? Like, I'm not joyful without this thing. And it's just crazy to think like we're conditioned to always be like, what's next? But we're never taught to dive internally. And I always ask the question as well of like, what if we stop trying to enhance and we just live? Like what if we just get to a point where we stop trying to improve society and we just enjoy life? And I don't know if that's possible when you have people that like Elon Musk are always trying to get better, which I'm not saying that's bad or good. I'm just saying like I think life would be much more joyful if we just decided that, okay, like no more enhancing, no more trying to get better. We're just going to live life and be joyful in this society.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because like inherently when you're trying to solve a problem, that shows like, hey, there's something lacking here. We need to fix it, and that's tough if you always have people wanting to do that. I mean that's good, I guess, but it's like at what point is it just not necessary? You know, and we don't know. You know, we never really know, and you know people who like Elon Musk, they present a solid argument. They're like, look, this is not we're not, or in his words, we're not a one planet species. We're meant to go because this Earth isn't gonna last. And I'm like, okay, that's probably fucking true because humans suck and we've just destroyed this planet. But there are some times where I'm like, yo, there's just no need. Like, why? Capitalism inherently is just always building and building. Like, at what point does Nike just have enough fucking money? You know, like we don't need another shoe. We don't need another iPhone. Like, why is Apple still doing brand deals? Like, yo, you don't need more money. Like, you have billions of dollars. What is the point for those types of like capitalism in general? I guess is that the problem? You think is a capitalistic mindset?
I do. I don't like. I love capitalism because it pushes people to grow. If there's no incentive to do anything, you're not going to grow as a human in the material world. I think the way that we look at it is the problem. And like it's the reason why you're wanting something. Like I think like most people want money for the reason to feel good or to fill a void. And I feel like that's when it causes problems. But if you're getting money because you enjoy what you do and you're providing actual value, because like I like the idea of like if we provide value, you get something like in return. Like I feel like that will push society farther than a society that does nothing and like everything's taken care of. And I feel that'll give us stuff to do, just like back in the day, how like it was trading and like farmers and stuff like that. I feel like that's necessary for the material world. But I feel like when you're doing it for the wrong reasons, for like filling a void or because you're insecure and you're unable to dive internal because you're trying to chase the external, I feel like that's when problems arise. And I feel like that's where a lot of people relate money to unhappiness, because most people that are unhappy have money because they're chasing money for the wrong reasons.
That's definitely true. Yeah, I agree with that. Because I noticed that recently, I guess, with when I was on the trip and I wasn't making money, I was like, man, if I was just making a little bit of money, there'd be nothing to worry. There'd be nothing more to complain about. I would be set because that is the only thing holding me back from being happy. And then I started door dashing, and now I don't even work that much. Like I work a couple times a week maybe, but I'm making like 4 or 5 times how much I'm actually spending on this trip. And I still run into the same types of problems. I'm like, okay, so clearly it wasn't just the money. It truly is just a feeling of like providing value, I guess, to somebody else, or feeling like your life is doing something for somebody in any capacity really is what kind of feels good. And I think that's the only way we find anything sustainable, you know, as long as we have something like money, which kind of distracts you from really what you're trying to get. You know, so many people are like, well, if I just had this money, and that's just literally what I was thinking a few weeks ago. And as soon as you get it, like, what's his name? It was either Jim Carrey or Russell Crowe or Russell Brand, 2 of the actors who like went and did everything Hollywood and were like, yo, this fucking sucks actually. Let me just do something better. And they were talking about how, man, I wish everyone was a millionaire. If everyone had just had the experience of being a millionaire, they would stop chasing bullshit, stupid shit. You know, and everyone goes, oh, that's easy for you to say, you are a millionaire. And they're like, well, that's the thing, like, you don't understand. And it's so hard in this world because so many people, they just don't have the stones to do something, you know. And when I went and did this trip, it wasn't I mean, now when I look, if you look at it on paper, it's not like the most unbelievable thing ever. But to me, it was like so big because it was this built up thing that I had in my head of like, fuck the system. I want to do something for myself and travel. And like all these people, like, man, I wish I could do that. And once I left, I was like, yo, you really could. Like literally anyone could fucking just pick up and leave. It's not like this particularly difficult thing. And I think so many humans and, and I'm sure I do in certain ways and, just have the same mindset where you're just kind of like you feel like you're lacking in some way. And I don't really know what the full answer is there. I don't know how we solve that problem like once and for all, other than going internal, like we were saying.
I don't think there is a way to solve it. I think it's more bringing awareness because it's like you can't. It's hard to be aware of something when it's already there. So it's like a lot of people don't know like that they're joyful and abundant right now in this moment. They always think they need something, and that's from like conditioning. And I feel like it's more about bringing awareness to people than like fixing the problem, I think, because like if people were aware of that, they wouldn't do the things that they're doing to spiral their life downwards into this like depressive state.
True. Have you seen those TikToks where they show like 1997 high school like footage of like kids walking around the hallways?
Yeah.
Have you seen any of this? And all the comments were like, man, everything was like, why don't we like what's that Office quote? Like we didn't know it was this good until it was over. Like why couldn't we have appreciated that when it was happening? You know? And I don't know why. Like I just it's so hard. Even if like even I know that to be true, like that you can and you should, and this is the present moment. It's still really hard to like fully be present and not. I don't know. Like I've always had trouble in my life, really, really being satisfied with the moment and being like fully immersed in it, and not just trying to take myself out of it or feel embarrassed for feeling a certain way or not fully tuning in to the moment when I should have. And I kind of overlooked it. I was like, oh, what's whatever. I'll celebrate later. You know. I don't know why I've always had that. The problem is it's been helpful, like it's helpful to have that mindset in this type of like economy or whatever, because it does allow you to move forward. But I think there's definitely a balance that it sounds like you found.
I feel like a lot of people either think that they take action and they can't be joyful in the present moment, or like in the present moment and they won't do anything. And like I've kind of found a balance where like you can be in the present moment but also take intentional action, which is backed by your values. And it's like you can still be joyful while taking intentional action. And I feel like that's kind of where the problem stems from. Is a lot of people think it's either one or the other, but you can have both.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
like I think like actually creates like more material success.
It does, and that's the problem is when you see them, it feels good. You get some success. Like I like it too when you grind. You have times in your life where you grind. You grind. You don't fucking have time for anything else. You push mindfulness aside. You push your families aside. And the problem is, it usually works out in some capacity. And I still believe that there are periods in your life where it is required for you to put your head down and just work. I think everyone, to achieve some level of material success, which I think allows some people to broaden their spiritual realm, is like you do have to have some type of success in the materialistic world to achieve that. I think, because otherwise you're always gonna be complaining, worrying about rent. So I think it's good to at some point in your life have that cycle of like I just gotta work, and if you can have that mindset of like, hey, this is not permanent. This is just a temporary thing where I gotta work a little bit extra, and that's good. But it's really hard. It's really hard to think about that in the moment for a lot of people, I think. And do you think? Because after my spiritual awakening, I tried to think back before, and I was like, what was I thinking about? Was I completely fucking unaware? Or was I on some level aware? Was I just a little bit below this spiritual awakening? Like, where was I at? Where do you think most people are at on that, like, spectrum of spirit? Like, is everyone, like, fucking dead last? Or they're awoke? Or, like, what do you think it looks like?
I feel like most people aren't even aware at all.
Just completely
They
unaware.
they just go through day-to-day life and they just think this is their life, their family, their kids. They work their job, they retire, and they die. And they think that's life as a whole. And I I I do feel like people just have no clue because it's so, and even if they do, they suppress it because like going through that journey and like this it is one of the most painful things and suffering that you can go through ever in your life because you have to dive internally and face like everything from your past and everything that you're dealing with now. And most people don't want to do that. They would rather be blissfully ignorant than take
Distract
that leap.
themselves
Yep.
on YouTube, on TikTok. I've noticed that even now, like where I'm like, oh, I need to sit here and stop going on TikTok, but I can't. Like, it feels so bad, or like smoke weed, and like it feels so bad, but it feels so good at the same time. It's such a weird thing that goes because your mind is like, when you're meditating. Because I had this like breakthrough about meditation a few weeks ago, where I was like, yo, meditation is the fucking ant. It's the key to the chest that is everything. Like you have to control your mind because right now your mind's controlling you. Like it literally is pitting yourself against it, and it's winning every single battle it wins. And even when you start on that spirit, even when you're aware of that, you still lose battles here and there. Like I still go on YouTube and look up 4 hours there and going, holy shit, I was supposed to meditate or I was supposed to do something. There's nothing I can do about it in those moments. I just go, okay, like move on next. But I do think that, I'm curious to see what you think on meditation. I don't know if you practice it or not, but I think meditation like truly is the answer to like literally everything. Like I truly think it is. If you can control your mind and you don't have random thoughts pop in your head from who knows where, and then you having these horrible episodes of depression or anxiety, like they just wouldn't happen if you could control your mind, right?
Yeah, so I think meditation isn't the absence of good or bad thoughts. I think it's the acceptance of anything. Urges, you have to shit, you have to piss, a thought, a feeling. Like I think a lot of people, and like that's where they kind of get caught up in meditation. They think, okay, like I'm gonna meditate and all my problems and all my thoughts and feelings I don't want aren't gonna be there. But it's actually just bringing awareness and building self-awareness and not doing compulsions and like giving into your urges and like giving into your like feelings like that you don't want. Like they can be there while you're meditating. And like I've gotten to a point now where where like everything like turns into like meditation for me. Like when I'm washing the dishes, like I'm there washing the dishes. Like I'm not there to wash the dishes to get them done. I'm there to wash the dish and what I'm doing like at that moment. Like same when I'm walking or like when I'm sitting down, like I'm listening or like I'm like aware like of my heartbeat. So like everything I'm doing like has turned into me like meditating and being in the moment and not just trying to get shit done.
Do you catch yourself with, because I have this problem, or not, I don't know if it's a problem, but it's the one thing I'm trying to remedy, the main thing I'm trying to remedy is this random just stories, movies that my brain just puts on, random scenarios that don't exist, just replaying, and it just cycles back. And then tomorrow it's the same exact story, maybe different context, same shit though. It'll play like a random thing from earlier in the day for no reason, just other than to like distract myself from like going internal or whatever. But I'll catch myself all the time, and I'll be like, holy shit, what was even the point of me thinking that, And it's so unnecessary, really. But it creates like mental chatter in your head. I forget, was it Alan Watts, I think, is one of those guys that talks about just like mental chatter in your head, and it just never stops. And that's what people struggle with. They're like, shut the fuck up, but they're yelling at themselves in their head. And I think that's one thing that meditation can really bring to light, when you start to see those thoughts as they come, almost even as they pop up, and you go, whoa, I see you, bro. No need to play that right now. Like, no need at all. Like, let me just hang out here and just be like in nothingness. It's so interesting how good that feels when you start to get a little bit of a grip, But I still, even all the time, I'll just go through a 30-minute phase where I'm sitting there fucking just daydreaming. And is that even bad though? Like I can't figure out if it's good or bad, because my goal is to not have that. But then I'm like, what's the harm in daydreaming every now and then?
I don't think it's bad. And like I'll say two things. Like I think the only difference between an intrusive thought and a thought that you're having is the intrusive thought is one that you don't want. Yeah. And like that's the only difference. And I think the problems stem in like meditation or for that, for example, or depression is not the actual thought or feeling that you're having. It's the judgment that you're putting on that thought. So when that thought pops up, you're like, fuck, like this is a bad thought. Like, I don't like it. And then your mind is going to keep showing you like bad thoughts. And then you're going to be doing something to suppress that thoughts. And then you're going to be to like try to control or get rid of uncertainty. And then your mind's going to send you in a loop. But if you didn't judge that thought and you just let that thought be there while you do things that you value, you won't get caught up in that loop, or like it'll help you to not get caught up in that loop.
Mm. All right. So I'll ask this question for more of like, not me asking it, but more of someone who's maybe just getting into like the spiritual whatever world, or where they don't know where to start. They don't know if meditation is the right thing to go with. They don't know if reading a book is like, what would you recommend someone who's maybe like 14 years old? I don't know how old they are, but they're like, yo man, I really like this stuff. I feel like I've been misunderstood my whole life. I'm ready to start in this journey. Where do I start?
That's so hard to do. I will give an answer, but I feel like it's hard because for you to actually like dive deep, I feel like you have to hit rock bottom or something has to happen. But if someone wants to start on it, like I would say the foundation is self-awareness. If you don't have self-awareness, you are going to be stuck in the material world and you're not going to be able to detach from your thoughts and your feelings, which is the most important thing. And I feel like to build that, you want to meditate. And the way that I kind of describe it to people is you want to sit down in a chair and you just want to sit there and you want to be aware of everything of if you have an itch, if you have to shit, if you have to sneeze, if you have a thought pop up, a feeling, and you want to focus on your breathing. And if an itch comes up, you want to watch it and that's it. You want to sit there. It's going to be hella uncomfortable. There's going to be like your mind's going to be firing off thoughts and feelings for you to do that itch. You're going to sit there and you're going to embrace that itch. Or like if you have an urge to shit, you're going to sit there and you're going to sit in that feeling and you're going to sit there and you're going to focus on your breathing. And if you do like get up to go poop or you like itch something, you're going to sit your ass right back down and you're going to sit there and you're going to focus on your breathing, or you're going to move yourself back to focus on your breathing. I think that's the most important thing, because not only does it build self-awareness, it realizes that you don't have to give into those thoughts and feelings and those urges that you're having.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself, all the time it's way harder than people think to sit there with nothing, because you always have your phone pretty much. It is, I would maybe go say it is one of the top 3 hardest things ever to sit on a fucking chair with nothing and just sit there. It is so hard for some reason. Your brain is literally screaming, get a phone, get anything, talk to somebody, like it is crazy how your brain freaks out as if it's like some entity that like a parasite like, jumped in, and it's like, have you seen Spider-Man, the third one?
Yep.
Tobey Maguire?
Yep.
The Black Spider-Man, and when the what is it, like the bell kind of, and the thing's like screams out like, what the fuck? I liken it to that a little bit. It's like, yo, this thing, whatever it is, this voice that came from compounded years and years and years of other people's opinions, all these things, negative self-beliefs, positive self-beliefs, it just, created this entity in your head that I guess is used sort of, it's just kind of there, we don't really know what it is, just kind of there. And it really freaks out when you are like looking at it, you're like, hey, what do you, hey, and the thing's just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing to distract, random thought, random thing that you could have said yesterday for no reason, and it's crazy. Like when you think about that shit, it gets a little trippy. You're like, yo, who is that person or whatever that is? For you now, you said you got a pretty good grip on it. I've asked this to like the last 2 people I think on my interviews. Would you be friends with that voice in your head now? If it was a real person, you think you would be friends with them?
Friends as in friends and sit down and talk? Like
Yeah,
have a conversation?
A lot of people say like, oh, it pushes me all the time. It's like, hey, you should have done this, should have done that. Like, I don't know if I would be friends with that voice, Is it more like is it like a fatherly figure to you? Is it a brotherly figure? Is it a friend? Is it like an enemy? Is it a motivator? What is that voice usually to you?
I think it was a very insecure and hurt child. And that's how I kind of look at it. Someone who's built up insecurities, built up things that he would judge himself on. I think it's more of like a little brother of like someone, and you just want to give it a hug. And I think I would be. And now since I've been through it, I would understand exactly what that person went through and I'll be able to relate to them. And I know all the stuff that he's talking about and what he's saying isn't coming from a bad place, and he's not being negative. He's not being mean. He's just coming from a hurt and insecure place.
Yeah, just scared in general. That's a very good answer, actually. Most people who, I've asked that other than the 2 interviews before, but a lot of people usually said, fuck no. You know, like, fuck no, I would not be friends. All they do is yell all day long, I'm not good enough for this or whatever. And I definitely experience waves of that. You know, sometimes I'm having very negative self-talk. You know, I hear people like Joe Rogan even, he's like 40. And, you know, he still talks. He's like, yo, I can't shut that voice up. I hate it. All it does is talk shit, basically. And I'm like, wow, that guy's 40 years old. He's been struggling with that voice for 40 years. You know, I literally can't imagine that. And I got to a point in desperation with that thing a few weeks ago with meditation where I was like, yo, I don't have a choice. I have to figure this shit out. I have to figure out what's going on, and I got to remedy this in some way. Otherwise, I'm literally going to go crazy, you know? And I think a lot of people, they vibe with that statement. I remember I talked about something with like the internal monologue on one of my podcasts. I had a few people reach out saying just that. They're like, I can't control this thing. It's so mean. It's so just like unreasonable. You know, like, why didn't you do this? Like, as if you should have known something, as if like it's in the future saying you should have known that when there's no way you could have known other than after the fact, you know? And that's a tough thing for most people to live with. And you're 21 now. I mean, I imagine you have a much more, to other people maybe unrealistic, but a very positive view on what your future looks like.
Is that a compliment? I can't tell.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
No, I think it is. Or I know it's more of a question. Like, do you have, like, what is your perspective on the future? I assume you're very hopeful and you're like, yo, I'm pretty confident in my ability. I'm pretty healthy mind up here, healthy mind, healthy body. I don't think a lot of people are very confident in their futures. But I think people like you and me who have had this understanding just do. I've always had it a little bit of like, yo, I'm set. I'll figure it out when I get there. I'm good.
Yes, I'm very hopeful. I'm very joyful that my future will be amazing. And it's funny that you say that. And I don't think I've ever said this on a podcast before, but like before, when I'll be driving, like I just had this sense that like I was born to do something amazing. Like I have so much potential, and like I was born to change the world. And now that I'm starting to detach myself from the material world, like I can see my future being even more joyful and even more loving than before. And like I'm so excited for the future because I have had this awakening and I've had this awareness to bring light to other people.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Because I noticed this once I started kind of doing the same stuff you're doing, like just speaking my truth and all that stuff. Nothing ever felt like I thought it would when I was growing up. You know, I think it's because of the movies we watched on, it's like Disney, you know, where it's like I had this thought the other day. I think the reason we're all so much in our head and we all think everything's happening specifically to us is because when you watch movies, you're following a main character's perspective and everything is happening to them. You know, so we're just constantly from a young age kind of like conditioned in that kind of belief that everything's happening to you. Once you like win, everything like fucking flowers, like money gets thrown at you, like all these things happen and you feel like you did it, you won, and then it's a fairy tale ending. You're happy for the rest of your life. And that's just not the reality anymore. You know, like I'm out here literally, I'm in Montana. Like I'm in a place where people were like, would love to be. You know, I was on a mountain the other day. Like I'm living that life that so many people want, but it doesn't particularly feel like fucking fairy tale. Like it's just like I'm here. You know what I mean? What is that like for you?
Now that I've been working on myself and I've learned to enjoy the present moment and come from that place of joyfulness, it doesn't feel exactly like the movies, but I enjoy like everything now. Like there's no good or bad now. There's just straight joy. Mm-hmm. And I do think the movies give a very bad representation of like, once this is done, all your bad shit will be gone forever. And it's like, no, it's like, that's not how life works. It's like, you're always going to be working on yourself. Like, it's not a one-time fix it and you're done. It's a genuine, like, it's a giant growth journey that you're on for your entire life. And like the things that like bothered you, yes, you can recover from them, but there will always be something else that your mind's trying to throw up at you.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I think for me, a lot of times, like I don't really get upset. I've actually never really I don't really get like mad. I don't have like a big temper or anything. And the only times recently that I've noted that I get like actually like really annoyed about are when just like, and I don't know if I'm just telling myself this, but I think it's like specific things that are just really inconvenient in the sense that like it needs to be taken care of now, and my brain I think does a good job filtering what is actually annoying, what you should condemn as annoying and really be annoyed, versus just be like, ah, fucking whatever, you know. Like the other day, what was it? I was driving and oh, my AirPods are my baby. Like I love my AirPods. I love them so much. And I remembered I had taken them out to like look to see where my, I don't know, I took them out and put them in my lap. I remember I was in my car. And that's the last thing I remembered. And all I knew was I was driving and I opened my case and they were not in there. And I was like, where the fuck are they? And I was like, oh my God, like this day I pulled over, they must be in my car, looking at my car, I couldn't find them. And I was like, holy shit, maybe they fell out of my lap onto the ground because I went into that restaurant real quick, and I was like, holy shit. And I was like so frustrated because I was like, okay, I have a right to be frustrated because like what the fuck? Like they're somewhere in some random parking lot and I have to find them right now. This actually matters. And for me, I deem that as like a viable reason to get upset. And I don't know, like, do you get, because you were saying you pretty much feel joy. Do you legitimately stand by that? Or do you really not have moments where you're like upset or annoyed, get caught up in the moment, and maybe you, like 5 minutes later, you're cool? Or what
I
is that?
obviously have those moments because I'm human.
Yeah.
Like they do come up, and like I can still like feel the feeling like of anger and not be angry.
Mhm.
Um, but very rarely, and I catch myself very quickly. Like very rarely do I almost never get angry at all. Um, very rarely do I ever get annoyed. Like I might lash out, but like as soon as I say that thing, like I might like apologize or, but I like catch myself very, very quickly.
Are you able to, you're able to like dial down that meter? Like
Yeah.
if it ramps up really quick, you're able to just be like, okay, and then just drop it back right back down to
Yep.
pretty much equilibrium. Wow, that's very impressive. That's really really impressive actually. Because I'm able to do that on some level. Like if it's like 1 to 10 and it bumps up to 10 for a moment, I can pretty much bring it down to like 4, where I'm like I'm pretty fucking annoyed, but I don't, it's whatever, you know, like I'll get through it. I guess with my thing, I only get annoyed with certain things where I'm like there's like a literal time thing, and it's like this needs to be taken care of right, really really right now, and it's like that's the only times I really really get annoyed. I guess like what for you, what is something that pulls you out of that moment, pulls you out of that joyful stage where you're able to just enjoy life? What do those things look like for you?
I don't really get annoyed. I think my like main stuff is like regret, guilt, and anxiety. And I think like my main fallback is like if I'm not being like a good person, or if I'm not like if I say something wrong or like stuff like that. Like I very rarely get annoyed with people, and I very rarely get mad or angry.
Mm. Yeah, I don't get much, especially with other people. I'm pretty understanding with just what I'm like. Yeah, that's fine. Like I'm sure they've got other stuff. I guess my expectations are like at a zero. You know, I just don't expect much from
Yeah.
anybody. Cause I've honestly I've just been I've just accepted the fact that I've literally been let down every single time by someone else. So I'm just like, ah, fuck it, whatever. Like if it wasn't me, then there's not even point in worrying about that. But I'm curious as to know. So you're 21. You said you had a pretty rough time with a breakup at the senior of college or high school. Um, Now that you've kind of like I wouldn't say like reached like a pinnacle, but you're pretty far along this journey. You understand some things. Um, how's that dating life? Because I haven't been much in the dating arena at all in the last couple of years. I don't want to think about it right now. But I'm curious like where you're at with that.
I've gotten to a point now, well, one, to find just people in general that match my vibe exactly when it comes to religion and spirituality and business, entrepreneurship, their goals, parenting. Just finding people in general, like boys, like or girls, is difficult. And so it's like I'm kind of just living my life, and if I come across someone that like matches that vibe, and we kind of vibe, and we're on the same path, and we want to like get together and like kind of see like what happens, I'm all for it, but I have no expectations from anyone. I don't chase at all anymore. Like I'm not chasing anyone. I'm not chasing anything anymore. I'm kind of just living my life, connecting with people, and I have trust that things are going to work out.
That's dope. That's a really, really healthy mindset, I think. Because I remember growing up, you see those videos on YouTube, like, man, nice guys always finish last. And I remember when I was younger, I was like, man, you're so fucking right. Like, but like, I can't help it. I just am a nice guy. And as I grew older, and I remember I rewatched the video, but then I remember on the suggested, I forget what the channel was, and they made like a redo of that video, where with like all this new perspective, we're like, wow, we made this video a few years ago, and we missed some things, and they like made this like redo style of the video, where they're like, well, it's not like you're being nice, you're just being like trampled over, and you're putting all these people's beliefs and stuff before yours. Like, that's really the problem. And I think there's a push for that, at least on my For You page's like algorithm. I don't know if it's just the people that I'm like kind of in that algorithm with that's seeing these things, but I'm seeing that there's a push for people saying, yo, fuck the chase. Like, literally fuck the chase. There's no point. It's a cycle that never ends, you know, and it never ends well for us.
I've gotten to a point where I'm going to put myself out there as a human. And if you're attracted to me from a spiritual perspective, from a like relationship in general, friends, wife, whatever it is, like, you're gonna stay in my life, and if you're not, like, you can fuck off. Like, like, I'm gonna speak my truth, and like, I'm gonna put myself out there and speak out what I want and where I sit and stuff like that. And like, if we vibe, that's great. If you don't, I don't want you in my life anyways, because I'm not here to chase. I already changed my beliefs for my ex for her, and like, now I'm like, I will never change my entire belief system. Like, yes, you have to compromise, but I will never change my entire belief system. And I'm like, I will always be my authentic self no matter what. And if you're not down with that, oh, like, great.
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page on that topic. One thing that worries me, because I had that same mindset, is I'm worried that I'm going to meet someone who is great and is all those things that I want, but I don't know if I'm in like a mode to be able to date right now. I don't think I like care enough to like want to, even though sometimes I'm like, man, I really wish I had someone to share this experience with. I really don't know if the right girl walked in my life, if I would just be like, all right, let's do this. You know, I think I would just be like, shit, you know, wrong time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I go back and forth with that same thing. Like, I'm trying to build my life. I'm trying to build something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, especially with me making money online, I think there's a lot more realistic possibilities now than just being in Ohio. So like, I feel like that gives me more hope, because like, I can go like wherever I want to. But
yeah,
even when it comes to it, it's like, part of me is like, I want someone that I can grow with and that understands it where I'm at now, and we can grow as a human together. And the part of me is like, I'm joyful and I'm trying to build something. Do I really want to bring someone else into my life at this time?
Yeah, it's hard. You know, you just don't know what's gonna happen.
I know.
And it's difficult. And you don't want to like risk all the stuff you've built to just like backtrack. You know what I mean? Because
Exactly.
you don't know where they're gonna be at. You don't know if maybe they're putting on a facade to just kind of like pretend like they're on your, like, vibing on your level or whatever. And it's tough, dude. It's really tough. I think just in general, especially in this tech age, you know, you just don't know what you're getting. A lot of people are really just have this face that they put on, and like, it's been so long since I've done that. My whole life was literally that up until a couple years ago. But like, I just know how many people are in that same cycle, and a lot of people, it's not even their fault. They just, like how you said, they just maybe aren't aware, or they're just not. And I think with the problem where spirituality can become toxic, I follow this guy named the philosopher guy, I think his name, on TikTok. He's long hair, white dude with long hair, long black hair, and he talks about this because he used to post all the spiritual content, and he actually in the middle of it was like, yo, I think some of this shit's actually kind of toxic. He goes, because how you said earlier, how people start to think they're better, you know, and when you have the spiritual awakening, you start to think, you're like, man, these people should have the same belief. How could they not already think this? You know, and how I said about Joe Rogan, how can Joe Rogan be 40 years old and still be fighting these demons? And like, everyone has that point in their own journey. It might be at age 77 for them, you know, it might be on their fucking deathbed. And for me, it might have just been 23 for whatever reason. But I guess this will be one of my final questions. you said earlier we're all one collective thing, and I agree. It's really hard to like make that work in like every circumstance. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So how do you like? I don't know how to ask this question. How do you? Because I also agree with you on this. By the way, I'm not like but
Okay.
so we're all one, but then there's parts of us. There's people who are just mean. They're bad. Like why? How is that a thing? How are we all one, but we're all so different? Like, and I've heard some things of like, well, we're all the universe, and the universe is us, and we're all just like depictions of us. We're like the ocean is the universe, and we're like the waves. You know what I mean? But I'm curious, like how you look at that. I guess.
So I think like everyone is all connected, if it's good or bad. And I think so. Like I have like two things on this. One, I think good or bad is subjective. So you could think that person's being mean, but his family could think he's being nice. So I think that kind of belief, like good and bad, like only goes so far. And I feel like there are going to be people that are like that because they're so attached to the material world. And that doesn't make them less of a human. And that doesn't mean that they're not connected. And I feel like we're all coming from the same place internally. We're just using like different words. We're using different meanings where we grew up at. The belief that the person is coming from, because like I see a lot of what I did in my compulsions in other people, and they weren't doing it for that. They were just insecure. They're trying to fill a void. They're trying to chase something, and they're not inherently bad or good. They're just trying to like fulfill some sort of feeling or thought that they're having. And I think like we're all connected. Like everyone like is just on like different stages and the different places, and we're all coming from the same place internally.
That's a sick fucking answer right there.
Thank
That's
you.
a really good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it. All right, so this will be my last question, and this popped up literally 2 seconds ago, and I think it's a really, really good question with what you just said. So you know how, and even earlier you alluded to this, how good and bad is subjective. There's no good thoughts, bad thoughts, just ones you don't like, you do like. Have you seen Interstellar by chance?
No, I have not.
All right, so there's a scene at the end of it's kind of like one of the themes that certain things like gravity, like love, transcend like time and space dimensions. Like some things are laws in the universe, versus some things are human constructs. Like the way we think about time might be a human construct, but time in general and the universe is like a thing. Do you think love, for example, is a subjective human-made thing, or do you think there are things like that, like love, that transcend just everything, and they are just real? Like there's energy. Some people have said the love is the fifth dimension, or the sixth or seventh, eighth dimension. I'm curious what you think about that, versus subjective things, little things that we kind of come up with, the humans come up with.
I think there are things that we know and that we feel internally, if that's like a higher conscious or God. And I feel like those are things that are like inherent in the universe and in things. If we're going to label it God or the universe or our higher self conscious, whatever you want to put on it, I think when we start to use words to describe those things, we do it a disservice, because we cannot, and words are only used for communicating, and that's it. When we put words on your experience of, let's say, love, it doesn't fully describe what you're going through. So I feel like there are things that are inherent for the universe and for life, and I feel like love could be one of them. And like joy and that stuff are inherent for everything. But I think using the word love gives it a disservice, because I feel like just the way that life moves out in a whole is love. Like the way things grow, the way life moves, the way things happen is love. But I don't like to use that word because it gives it a disservice. But I feel like if you watch just the world move from a labelless and a non-judgmental place, no matter what it is, you can find that love and that joy in anything.
100%. That's why I love sunrises. Like sometimes I'll be sitting there watching a sun, like you'll see the world go from sleep, dormant, to just fucking. You'll see like the light of the sky come up. You'll see birds start to chirp. you'll see the first bit of cars going to work, you know, and you're like, wow, holy shit, you know what I mean? And there's not like a word, there's just like a feeling. And it's crazy that you come up with all these realizations or revelations. To be honest, I'm just shocked that you come up with it without the use of any kind of psychedelic, because I had some level of this type of thinking before, but like my sister's the same. She's just like you, and she also hadn't tried any kind of psychedelic, and she just had these awarenesses where I was like, how the fuck did you come to that conclusion on your own? You know what I mean? And I think maybe just for some people, like how you said you had just a rough time growing up, you went through a lot of shit, and she also went as well. I think I maybe had less shit that I went through, and so I made up shit to happen to me. Like I backed myself into a wall on purpose so that I could catapult myself. Like I literally got tattoos on my fingers. That is my podcast, Joyage, on purpose so that I would like be at a disadvantage to get certain jobs. I don't know. It was like my way of thinking, but I was like, I've had like a pretty decent life, you know, like I haven't had any crazy, horrible things happen to me or anything like traumatic particularly. So like for me, like, and for a lot of people, I think, who are in first world type problems, you know what I mean? They have to come up with things to grow and to force themselves into growth. And you know, I think people like you and I think we're fucking doing it right out here. I think there's only so much. I mean, like, what really is bad about just putting out your word? You know, like we're just putting out the word. You never know who it's gonna hit. You know, if only it's 7 people like your video, then that's 7 more people than there were before. They may have really need to hear that content. And I think that's why I post. But is there anything like last things you wanted to leave? Like maybe any kind of shout outs for your companies or in your socials or whatever?
I mean, if like anyone needs like any like healthy pet products, go over to my social media. It's at Easton Gladney, EASTONGLADNEY.
And I'll link all these things and tag you. Okay. So yeah.
Sweet. And like if anyone like has any questions like about mental health, spirituality, you guys like you need help, like anything, like I'm always here to help. Like offer advice, like my perspective. And I love connecting with people, like talking to people, like getting like their perspective on stuff like religion, like whatever it is.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Hey, it was a pleasure talking to you. This is dope. This went amazing. You were great. You were such a cool guy. I'm really glad we got to have this talk, because I just didn't know much about you before, you know, like I just knew what your message was. So I'm really glad I got that. And yeah, man, I hope your phone doesn't die.
No, we're good.
But yeah, man. Anyways, I'll see you later, dude. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. See you, man. Thank you.
Peace.